Mansion and Cinema once again block what's going on with the budget bill. So we'll talk just a bit about what's going on there and what has already come out of the reconciliation bill that they are going to try to use to sell this gigantic thing. In other news, Merrick Garland sits up and testifies in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee, which, well, quickly turns into a bunch of people just hammering him for things that he believes in. So we'll talk just a bit about that. The Washington Post is starting to go after victims again, and as my friend Brady Leonard has said, the Washington Post going after a 14-year-old rape victim to win an election is about as Washington Post as you can get. But we'll discuss what's going on there. And, let's see, a Hartford police officer is recovering after being shot while in a vehicle by a person who was been arrested 13 times and released by a judge. It is going to be all this and more. Let's go, Brandon. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Helps if you turn the microphone on. Well, I got my Halloween costume ready. It's all prepped. I've got everything laid out for this here so I can get all ready tomorrow morning for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. I think most of you guys are going to recognize who I dressed up as. So it's going to be a big surprise and a big reveal. I've got a lot of prep to do for that, but I think we're going to have a lot of fun tomorrow for that one. That's going to be a big one. That's going to be a bit of a high energy one too. This early in the morning, I guess I'm going to have to pound down a whole pot of coffee and a whole can of Bang before we get started with this here. But we've got a bunch of news to get to today, and hopefully to be high energy today to get through all of this as well. It's going to be another long one, folks, but that's partially because we have some of them left over here. So we have got to get into it here. Let me get the monitors up instead of the pretzel rocks. Let me get the live chat up so I can see what you guys are doing in here. Make sure nobody's killing each other off of this. And let's get started. But before we get into any of the news, make sure you guys go over and check out TurnSomePagesProductions.com. Go and check that out. It's our new website that we're working on here. We just had Bobby Joe on, who is going to be designing the site and getting it out here. She's got a lot of really good ideas on how we want to go with this, but we got to get her paid. So there is a GoFundMe out there, but you can go check out TurnSomePagesProductions.com right now. Bookmark the page so we can get started and get set into everything here. And while you're at it, go over and check out great shows such as the Daily Ignoramus, in which Steven is going to be sitting in on the Red Ned Show coming up on Monday, because I'm going to be down in Kenosha, and I know Steven can go mostly without prep because he covers a lot of the same stuff I do. So that'll be good. That'll be fun. I love working with Steven. And by the way, Steven is designing the Season 4 theme song for the Red Ned Show. So we're not going to be able to hear that. Well, I might sample some of that for you guys in the coming weeks here. But we're not going to have that on the Red Ned Show specifically until December, the start of winter, which would be the start of Season 4, but still, I love watching that kid work. He gets so excited about writing music, and it's so fun to watch. So, and I've heard some of the preliminaries off of this. That song's a banger. It's a great Steven Ignoramus job, so I'm very, very glad that I'm going to be able to feature this up on my show, so that's going to be awesome. And yeah, go check him out. Also check out The Porch Boys, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, and The Freckles and Brit Show as well. Go check out all those shows. They're all going to be a part of the new network, so come on in, join us out there, and join my friends. And if you guys do want to help out, we do have the GoFundMe up here. Help launch Turn Some Pages Productions. We are still stalled out at $500, and I've got a little bit more in another bank account off of this that I'm dedicating solely to this project. So any donations you guys have coming in, by the way, also will go solely to the project. Anything I make off of Shib will be going off that project. By the way, go check out Shib. Buy Shib to the moon. It's the new Doge, and well, trust me, you want to get in on it now. If you do get in on it, trust me on that one. You want to get in on that one now, because well, I have about 300,000 SHIB. Let's just say that. I don't know where it's going to go. It didn't cost me all that much. Enough to where if it does tank completely away, I'm not really out anything. But go check out SHIB. It's going to be just, well, I don't know if it's going to be just like Doge, but to me it's just like Doge. I threw a $20 bill at it and said, hey, if something happens, cool. If it doesn't, whatever, it was 20 bucks. But yeah, go and check that out as well. All right, speaking of finance, let's get into finance. By the way, that was not official financial advice either. All right, let's see what we've got going on here. On the Dow. The Dow actually had another downturn, which is an oddity for earnings season, by the way. Usually on earnings season, when everyone is telling everybody else how much richer they got over the last 3 months, everything keeps going up and up and up and up. It's usually like 2 weeks after earnings season that you start to see stuff. But the Dow took a nice almost 1% drop yesterday, down to 35,490.69. That is down 266.19 points, and it seems like Visa tanking was what led this, which would be interesting for me because that would tell me that a lot of people who use a bank card with a Visa in it, they're walking away from their banks and only doing sub $600 transfers, which could be the start, by the way, of seeing what's happening if this entire monstrosity passes and the IRS can come in and look at your bank account. Trust me, they're not going in after the billionaires, but that's something that we see. That's something to see going on right there. Let's grab the Bitcoin. Speaking of cryptocurrency, the Bitcoin was down to 58,000 overnight, and it came up, last night rather, and it came up overnight to $61,049 and 80 US cents. So that's what we are seeing coming off of that. That's quite an exchange overnight, so a lot of people are probably buying into the crypto market because we don't know, and it does look like we might start getting to a number of what's happening off of this budget deal. We'll talk about that in just a bit here. Looking at your scrap prices. Let me get a refresh from that because that's last night's too. Your copper is down to $3.38 a pound. Your steel is up to $1.92 a ton, and aluminum turned around and came back down, is now down to 64 cents a pound on the average. Looking in at your materials here, it looks like anything with copper in it is on the downswing. Brass shells, Romex, number 2 tubing. Looks like everything with copper is on the downtrend. But everything with steel is on the uptrend. Steel BX, light iron, number 1 steel, cast iron, rotors, complete car. As far as aluminum goes, cans are up, sheet aluminum is up, rims are up, but radiators, aluminum and copper radiators, and siding are all down. So a little bit of a mixed bag going in on your scrap metal prices, which tells me that the industrials are mixed. Some of them are keeping going and some of them are stalling out, but we will see what happens with that. Let's get in and read from IBD for the morning. Dow Jones futures rise, Ford signals breakout, Tesla jumps, here come Apple earnings. This is from Ed Carson. Dow Jones futures rose modestly Thursday morning, along with S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures, after the stock market rally closed near session lows for a second straight session. ServiceNow, Ford were key earnings overnights, but investors are already turning to Apple earnings on Thursday night. The stock market rally finished poorly again on Wednesday, with the Dow Jones and S&P 500 retreating. The NASDAQ composite closed essentially flat, even with the Microsoft stock Google parent Alphabet, and to a lesser extent Tesla providing a boost for Microsoft, is closing on Apple stock's market cap, while Google stock broke and approached a $2 trillion valuation. But many leaders showed wild action, while the market breadth was weak. The 10-year Treasury yield fell sharply on Wednesday, extending recent declines, while crude and copper prices fell solidly. On your earnings now stock, Ford, Upwork, eBay, Edward, Life Sciences, and Twilio reported earnings after the close. ServiceNow, Ford, and Upwork stock had all pulled back from buy points after briefly breaking out over the past week or so. eBay stock closed in on a buy range. Edwards, Life Sciences, and Twilio were near potential early entries. Ford stock was the standout, jumping 8% before the open on strong earnings, raised guidance, and a renewed dividend, and a kickback to the top because they have to tell you, trick or trade! Ford stock was a standout, jumping 8% before the open on strong earnings, raised guidance, and a renewed dividend. Despite missing on revenue, Ford stock is signaling it'll flash at least an early entry and likely an outright breakout on Thursday that came after it retreated modestly Wednesday on mixed results and weak Q4 guidance from General Motors. ServiceNow earnings topped, but now stock retreated mostly in pre-market trading. Upwork stock tumbled despite a beat and raise report. Edwards Lifesciences declined modestly after Edwards narrowly beat a Q3 EPS views on roughly inline revenue while guiding low on Q4 EPS. eBay stock pulled back solidly. Does anybody still use eBay? By the way, I see that they're talking about eBay stock. I have not seen anybody use eBay in probably a good 5 years, and I haven't seen anybody use it regularly in a good 20. Amazon kind of elbowed them out of the market. I had an eBay. I bought a bunch of shit off of eBay. I loved eBay when eBay was a thing because, well, I was pretty poor at the time and my computer crashed and my fiance at the time wanted me to get a new one, but we built it all based off parts that we got off eBay. I bought magic cards off eBay. I bought a bunch of shit off eBay. I liked eBay. Because, especially if it's something I'm trying. Now, if it's something that I want to utilize regularly, that I know is something I'm going to like, I will go for brand new. But if it is something that I just want to try out and say, hey, I wonder if I would like this new hobby, I would rather just buy used stuff here, put it together for a lower cost and see how it goes. So I loved eBay for that. eBay was cool for that. Especially computer stuff. Putting computers together. I liked it for that. Man, now I want to go buy a bunch of components on eBay and cobble them together and see if they'll work. Well, I know what I'm doing this weekend. Alright, anyway. On the Apple earnings loom on Thursday night. Apple will report fiscal Q4 earnings and sales. Apple stock dipped 0.3% to 148.85, modestly above its 50-day line. Shares are working towards a 157.36 buy point from a cup base, according to MarketSmith analysis. Apple stock has the world's best market cap of $2.46 trillion. But Microsoft is at $2.44 trillion. Shares jumped 4.2% on Wednesday to $323.17, a record high but extended from any buy point. Meanwhile, Google stock popped 5% to $29.24.35 on earnings, breaking out of a flat base with a $29.25.17 buy point. Google stock has a $1.96 trillion market cap. Tesla stock closed near session lows for a second day straight after hitting 1070.87 intraday, but did advance nearly 2% to 1038.31. Tesla now has a $1.04 trillion valuation. After the close, Piper Sandler raised the street high Tesla stock price target to $1,300 from $1,200. Shares rose 3% early on Thursday. That's our earnings news for the day here. Tesla, ServiceNow, Google, and Microsoft are all in the IBD leaderboard. Google is on Swing Trader and was Wednesday's IBD stock of the day. ServiceNow, Google, and Microsoft are all IBD long-term leaders. Of course, because, they're the trillion-dollar market cap people. And Tesla and Google are on the IBD 50. On your futures, Dow futures rose 0.25% versus fair value with Merck and Caterpillar rising on earnings. S&P 500 futures climbed 0.35%. NASDAQ 100 futures advanced 0.6% with Tesla stock helping. The 10-year Treasury yield picked up a basis point to 1.54%. Crude oil futures fell nearly 2% while copper prices rose in spite of the fact that we saw copper prices on the scrap down. And gas is still up. But we'll see what happens there. Dow futures and Treasury yields will likely move on economic data Thursday morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. The Commerce Department will offer its initial estimate for third quarter GDP growth. Economists slashed Q3 forecast amid the Delta COVID wave, as well as supply chain and labor issues. The Delta Labor Department will also release weekly jobless claims. Yeah, today's stocks and tomorrow's stock are going to be wild. Because I'm waiting to see what the jobless claims are, especially where that's going to go, which the initial jobless claims are going to drop again. A lot of it's going to be more continuing claims at this point. The third quarter GDP growth, I don't think is going to go as well as they think it is, and I think that's going to trigger a sell-off. But we're still in earnings season and Apple is on deck. Today's stocks could go anywhere. They could go up and they could go down. They could go anywhere based on the information that's going to come out today. So we will see what happens. And remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. All right, that's what we see here. Let's grab one from Market Watch quick. Dow down 189 points on losses for Visa, Dow Incorporated stocks. From Market Watch Automation. So a robot wrote this. Dragged down by losses for shares of Visa and Dow Incorporated, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is declining Wednesday afternoon. The Dow was most recently trading 189 points lower as shares of Visa and Dow Incorporated have contributed to the index's intraday decline. Visa shares are off 1502 or 6.5%, while those of Dow have fallen 265 or 4.5%, combining roughly for a 116-point drag. The Dow on the Dow, also contributing significantly to decline are Chevron and JP Morgan Chase. A dollar move in any of the benchmark's 30 components results in a 658-point swing. So that's just a little bit of information that went along with that and what we're seeing off of this. Yeah, Visa, not like Dow, the Dow Jones Index, but Dow, the cleaning supplies company, is dragging down on the Dow, the index, plus Visa. So that's what we see off of that. Let's get into the big news of the day, shall we? And before we get into talking about Merrick Garland, I do want to touch on a little bit of breaking news that happened overnight here that I want to make sure that everybody knows about here. And this is coming to us from Reuters. Taiwan president confirms U.S. troops are training soldiers on the island, from CNN. This is no author given. A small number of U.S. forces are in Taiwan to train with Taiwanese soldiers. President Tsai Ing-wen said in an interview with CNN, confirming the presence of U.S. troops on the self-governing island that China considers its own. Tensions between Taiwan and West Taiwan, which is not ruled out by taking the island by force, have escalated in recent weeks as Beijing races military and political pressure. We have a wide range of cooperation with the U.S. aiming at increasing our defense capability, Tsai told CNN in the interview, aired on Thursday. Asked how many U.S. service members are deployed in Taiwan, she said, only that it is not as many as people thought. The confirmation comes as China is sharply increasing military pressure on Taiwan, including repeated mission by Chinese warplanes on Taiwan's air defense identification zone. While several Taiwan and international media outlets, including Reuters, have previously reported such training with U.S. troops, official confirmation could further aggravate U.S.-China relations at a time when Beijing is carrying out muscular military exercises near Taiwan. Asked about Tsai's comment, Taiwan Defense Minister Chiu Kuo-cheng told reporters Taiwan-U.S. military interactions were quite a lot and quite frequent and had been going on for a long time. Now, as of right now, it does not appear confirmed that there is a U.S. base or anything else like that in Taiwan, but there are people there. Which means that if, for whatever reason, Xi Jinping gets a big fucking dick and goes over there, that means he is directly aggressed on U.S. troops, which could be a catalyst to bring the U.S. into this war. So this is something to watch. Definitely something to watch. I don't know if this violates the treaty that we saw, because as far as I know, according to the treaty that we have with them from 1979, we can provide weaponry, because of course we have to make the weapons people rich. We can provide weaponry, but we can't provide manpower. Thank you for the resubscription, Katie Z, by the way. Thank you very much for that. So I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know what we're going to see come out of this. I don't know if we're going to wind up... This could be the catalyst that starts World War III. I know I'm being hyperbolic about it, but I know we heard a certain half-Asian person tell us all last year, oh, Civil War this, Civil War that, Civil War this, Civil War that. But we will see what's going on with that. All right, let's grab this Merrick Garland story from Newsweek. GOP senators hammer Merrick Garland over school's memo. AG stands firm. So, and we're not going to get to, unfortunately, see any of the video off of this one. Not that I don't think there really is any off of this one here, because it's archived, because it's Newsweek. You get 4 free articles a month. Otherwise, you have to hit the paywall. But we'll see what's happening here. AG Merrick Garland faced intense questioning from Republican U.S. senators at the Capitol on Wednesday over a recent memo that he sent regarding violent threats against school officials. Normally, things like this against state and local officials involving state and local government entities, like school boards, are not federal, Senator Mike Lee, a Utah Republican, told Garland during a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing on oversight of the Department of Justice on Wednesday. Not every outburst or expression of concern by neighbors among neighbors at a local school board meeting warrants a federal investigation. In the memo earlier this month, Garland directed the Federal Bureau of Investigations and U.S. Attorney's offices to meet with federal, state, tribal, territorial, and local law enforcement leaders to discuss strategies for addressing what he called a disturbing spike of harassment, intimidation, and threats of violence. Which was in reality parents coming out here and starting getting interested in what their kids are being taught in school. Oh, the horror! I think all of us have seen reports of violence and threats of violence. That is what the Justice Department is concerned about, Garland told the Senate panel on Wednesday. But Republicans have consistently hammered Garland on the memo, accusing him of attempting to treat concerned parents as domestic terrorists. This kind of looks like something that would have come from some communist country, Senator Grassley, an Iowa Republican, told Garland. He also went on to question whether the FBI could be keeping a database of parents who've been reported, an insinuation Garland rejected. They're the FBI, so I don't think that's as big of a stretch as you think it is. Heather is Unsane, Samurai Apocalypse over on Twitter, put out the question. Apparently ODB had like a 93-page file with the FBI. And she posed the question, how long do you think the file is that you have with the FBI? And I thought about that for a second. And I said, well, let's see. I've been anti-government on YouTube and Twitch. I'm very vocal about moving away from government, and I do a lot of prepping and canning in real life. I have a DLive channel and a BitChute channel. And an Odyssey channel, by the way. And I used to co-anchor a news show with the woman who was the Twitter voice of Joe Jorgensen. I'm pretty positive that my page with the FBI is in the 4-figure range. I'm pretty positive they've got over 1,000 pages of stuff on me. FBI agent. Alright. What the department is doing with tips it receives on this dedicated line, and what are you doing with those parents who have been reported, Grassley asked. Garland's memo doesn't mention domestic terrorism or parents, and instead directly references illegal threats and harassment. It doesn't propose any direct action other than coordinating or sharing information on addressing the trend, and said that the FBI would announce a series of measures designed to address the rise in criminal conduct directed toward school personnel. Okay, so I understand the message that Garland is trying to push off with this, and also keep in mind, as we saw last week, Merrick Garland, his son-in-law, is one of the key distributors to this critical race theory bullshit. So do keep that in mind as we're looking into this and seeing what's happening with this and where this goes. But the narrative out there is, of course, they're just going in. They're in an advisory role. They're coming in here to make sure and coordinate with local law enforcement to make sure that everything is good. And we're definitely not doing anything about trying to keep parents away from this. We're just trying to address the threats. Okay. That's all well and good. Now, I want to look back here and for a second talk about the Justice for January 6th rally. And this is important to what we're talking about here. Now, when we first figured out that there was something coming, when people started going into live chats and saying, oh, hello, friend, are you going to the Justice for January 6th rally? And it usually happened on Twitch, because it's always fucking Twitch. hey, are you going to this rally here in D.C.? You should definitely go down to D.C. And we all figured out what was going on here, that it was a trap and everything. And we started pushing people to not go there. There were a few stupid people that still went. But for the most part, as soon as the majority of people who would have been involved in this knew that the FBI was going to be both involved in there, and they were, by the way, only feds, they stayed the ever-loving fuck away. So now what is this? With that in mind, where does this message go? What does this message tell you? If you're a parent and you're concerned, but you're also vaguely right-wing, and you know that the FBI is going to be there, do you go? Do you want to be involved with that shit? Do you want to be there? Could this be a sting? Could there be guys with fresh side shaves all wearing the same Ray-Bans saying, hey, fellow parents, we are active, concerned members of your community. Hey, let's go hang the school board members. What do you think, fellow parents? Because I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't go if I knew the FBI was going to have a presence there, because, I mean, I've seen what happened at the Justice for J6 rally. At this point, I strongly believe that there was a large presence of that at the Capitol Selfie Fest. Just like we saw when Massey was out there showing off and showing the video of the guy who was standing out in the crowd saying, hey, let's go inside the Capitol. Everybody, let's go inside the Capitol. All the people out in the street were, no, get rid of this guy. And then, yes, he did wind up getting some monkey see, monkey do crowd to go inside the Capitol. Because once you get in a crowd, and I've said this before, people are, a person is smart, but people are really dumb. To quote from Men in Black. Once you get a bunch of people in a crowd into a frenzy, the intelligence level of the crowd tends to drop to the level of the dumbest member of the crowd. And I'm not saying anything against these parents either, by the way. That's just human nature. And some of these people who are going to get swept up in the crowd are some of the smartest people in the community. But once that mob mentality sets in, all bets are off. But that's what we're seeing off of that. Let's grab a little bit more off of this. Garland, under GOP attack, defends memo on violent threats against school board officials. From Alexander Malin. A Senate hearing grew heated on Wednesday as Republicans repeatedly demanded AG Garland retract and apologize for a memo he issued earlier this month aimed at addressing the rise in threats against school board officials around the country. In an oversight hearing before the Senate Judiciary Committee, Garland defended the intent of the memo that called for the FBI and U.S. attorneys' offices around the country to convene meetings with local officials to discuss strategies aimed at addressing the increase in threats. All it asks is for federal law enforcement to consult with, meet with local law enforcement, and assess the circumstances, strategize about what may or may not be necessary, provide federal assistance if it is necessary, Garland said. Republicans, though, sought to characterize Garland's directive as an order for FBI agents to investigate and pursue parents voicing concerns at school board meetings, which in recent months have been venues of intense debate over issues like policies to mitigate the spread of COVID-19 and the teaching of race issues in American history. It's not that. I will go with Garland on this, and it's not characterizing, it's not investigating and pursuing parents. It's not. It's intimidation is what it is. Oh, you see, you think you can go in here and you know the cops in your local neighborhood. Oh, hey, here's an FBI agent. Oh, he taught your law enforcement there, so you better not fuck around, or hey, the FBI will come in and get you. No, I don't think that they're actually going to investigate and pursue these parents. I think this is just an intimidation tactic. This is the government coming down and saying, you better not. You better not. Which the government does well. I mean, think about what happens on April 15th every year. Garland's initial memo followed a letter sent by the National School Board Association to the White House that had requested federal assistance in addressing threats that they argued should in some cases be classified as acts of domestic terrorism. Yeah, that's where the domestic terrorism comes from. No, it didn't come from Garland's memo, but yes, there is the intimidation factor off of this. Following a widespread backlash from Republicans and several state attorneys general, the NSBA issued an apology Monday for some of the language it included in the letter. So good. Good. That's what we see coming back up out of this. Let's watch some video of this. Tom Cotton is the first one on deck here. So we'll grab this here. Just one clip of this, but I've got more. But let's start with this one.
So you keep citing the school board letter and news reports.
Right.
One of the news reports cited in that letter, which you presumably mean, is from Loudoun County, Virginia.
No, that is not what I was talking about.
Well, you keep citing news reports, and that's the most prominent news report that anyone in America has seen. That refers to Scott Smith, whose 15-year-old daughter was raped. She was raped in a bathroom by a boy wearing girls' clothes, and the Loudoun County School Board covered it up because it would have interfered with their transgendered policy during Pride Month. And that man, Scott Smith, because he went to a school board and tried to defend his daughter's rights, was condemned internationally. Do you apologize to Scott Smith and his 15-year-old daughter, Judge?
Senator, anyone whose child was raped is the most horrific crime I can imagine, and is certainly entitled and protected by the First Amendment to protest to their school board about this.
But he was cited by the School Board Association as a domestic terrorist, which we now know that letter and those reports were the basis for your...
No, Senator,
this is
that's wrong.
Shameful. Judge, this is shameful. This testimony, your directive, your performance is shameful.
That's not...
Thank God you are not on the Supreme Court. You should resign in disgrace, Judge.
Always a pleasure to talk.
Got him. So let's read from the Hill. Cotton tells Garland, thank God you're not in the Supreme Court. A.G. Garland on Wednesday clashed with Republican senators over the Justice Department's efforts to crack down on violent threats against school boards, with one more GOP member telling the former judge, thank God you're not on the Supreme Court. Yeah, I can actually get behind that. Senator Tom Cotton made the remark during a heated exchange in which the senator tried to tie the Justice Department's new school board policy to an incident in Loudoun County, Virginia, where a teenager was accused of sexually assaulting a fellow student in the school bathroom. This testimony, your directive, your performance is shameful, Cotton said. Thank God you're not on the Supreme Court. You should resign in disgrace, Judge. Cotton's remarks came during an oversight hearing before the Senate Judiciary Committee, where Garland faced repeated attacks from Republicans over the memo that was issued earlier this month offering federal assistance to schools and local law enforcement amid a rise in violent threats against education officials and teachers. Before joining the Biden admin this year, Garland was a judge on the influential D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. Former President Obama nominated Garland to fill the Supreme Court seat left vacant by the death of Antonin Scalia in 2016, but the confirmation process never got off the ground due to opposition from Senate Republicans. Cotton was among the Republicans in 2016. He opposed confirming a Supreme Court justice during an election year. He also delayed Garland's confirmation as attorneys general this year over criticisms about the then judge's views on immigration. Republicans have painted the school board policy as federal overreach. It is. Intended to chill parents' dissent against local school policies. It is. At least the GOP gets something right every once in a while. During the hearing on Wednesday and a House hearing last week, Garland pushed back, arguing that there's nothing in the department's memo that could chill parents' free speech rights. Really? Like I said. Oh, the FBI is watching. They train your local beat cop. You better be careful if you go there. I'm not saying that anything's going to happen, but you better be careful if you go there. It has nothing to do with the Loudoun County controversy, which has largely been treated as a local matter, but has generated significant public attention, including in the state's governor's race. Yeah, I think if there wasn't a gubernatorial race going on right now, this would have remained as a local story. Goodbye to Instagram, by the way. That has shut down. So I got to figure out why the hell they're cutting me off so quickly. But we'll see what happens with that. Let's grab one from the Daily Wire with a little bit more of Cotton's speech here. Watch Cotton rips AG Merrick Garland over school board's memo. You should resign in disgrace, which we saw that particular clip already, but let's see what some of the context is that went in with that. And we're not going to go with the whole 8 minutes either. It's C-SPAN, so they pulled everything in completion, but let's grab a little bit of this.
Directive sicking the feds on parents at school boards across America. When you crafted that October 4th memo, did you consult with senior leadership at the FBI?
My understanding was that the memo, or the idea of the memo, had been discussed with the FBI before it got...
Did anyone at the FBI express any doubt or disagreement or hesitation with your decision to issue that memo?
No one expressed that to me.
No one?
To me. No one expressed that to me, no.
Because a lot of them have contacted us, and they said they did, Judge.
I'm sorry?
A lot of FBI officials have contacted my office and said that they oppose this decision.
Well, I doubt any of them spoke to me about it because I didn't speak to no one.
All right.
Made that
All right.
to me.
Judge, you've repeatedly dissembled this morning about that directive. For instance, about the National Security Division. Chuck Grassley asked you a very simple question, why you would sick the National Security Division of the Department of Justice on parents. John Cornyn asked you the same thing. You said it wasn't in your October 4th memorandum, it was in another office's memorandum. It wasn't another office's memorandum, Judge. It was in a press release from your office, right here in front of me, October 4th, 2021, for immediate release. You're going to create a task force that includes the National Security Division. What on earth does the National Security Division have to do with parents who are expressing disagreements at school boards?
Nothing in this memorandum or any memorandum is about parents expressing disagreements with their school boards. The memorandum makes clear that parents are entitled and protected by the First Amendment to have vigorous debates. We don't, the Justice Department is not interested in that question at all. It is
okay, so even in that case, what is the National Security Division, Judge? These are the people that are supposed to be chasing jihadists and Chinese spies. What does the National Security Division have to do with parents at school boards?
This is not, again, about parents at school boards. This is about threats of violence.
Okay, let me turn to that because you've said that phrase repeatedly throughout the morning. Threats or violence and threats of violence. Violence and threats of violence. Yeah. We've heard it a dozen times this morning. As Senator Lee pointed out, the very first line in your October 4th memorandum refers to harassment and intimidation.
All right, and that's some of the context that we saw, especially with the short clip that we saw over on the Hill article here. But I mean, that's like I said at the beginning. I don't think that Garland is doing this to come out and say, "Oh, well, I'm going to go investigate and prosecute parents." I think this legitimately is just the intimidation factor, because that's the only thing I can see coming out of this logically is the intimidation factor. Because under 10th Amendment supremacy, they really don't have anything. I mean, this isn't interstate commerce, so they have nothing else to go back and do. They have no other role in this situation, except to be the gigantic gorilla standing behind the mob boss, cracking their fucking knuckles and saying, "Yeah, you want to try something at the school board meeting? Hey, boss, you want me to rough them up a little bit?" Let's keep going. I got another one from Fox News because apparently Cruz got in on the action too. Ted Cruz clashes with AG Garland over abusive memo instructing DOJ involvement in local school board matters. From Kyle Morris. Senator Ted Cruz hammered AG Garland Wednesday during a Senate hearing accusing the chief law officer of engaging in political affairs after he failed to do research and issued an abusive memorandum instructing the DOJ to investigate parents who have threatened school board members. Let's listen.
Prosecutors do, but parents don't, General Garland. Do you think that a parent...
Wait, that's fucking Cotton. Really, you fuckers? No, we want Cruz. Alright, I guess I'll have to read and get out the Cruz voice, huh? There's a difference between law and politics, and General Garland, You know the difference between law and politics, Cruz said to Garland. Law is based in facts. It is impartial. It is not used as a tool of political retribution. This memo was not law. This memo was politics. Garland's October 4th memo was issued after the Biden admin received a letter from the National School Boards Association and claimed some parental behavior may amount to domestic terrorism. Like I said, intimidation. The NSBA has since issued an apology for that letter, saying there was no justification for some of the language included in the letter. Wouldn't it be funny if the NSBA was only comprised of Illinois, Massachusetts, New York, California, and places like that? These super blue strongholds out there. Because if they keep doing shit like that, they're going to get to that point. In the letter, which she told the House of Representatives was the basis of this abuse and memo, how many incidents are cited in the memo? Cruz asked Garland. I'd have to look back at the memo, Garland responded, who later added that he did not know how many incidents were violent. You don't know? Cruz said. There's a reason you don't know, because you didn't care. Nobody in your office cared to find out. During this hearing, I counted 20 incidents cited. Of those 20, 15 on their face are nonviolent. Cruz also accused Garland of targeting parents with opposing political views, insisting that Garland labeled the father of the victim of reported sexual assault at a school in Loudoun County, Virginia, a domestic terrorist for protesting the school's handling of the issue. I never called him that. That's not correct, Garland said in response to accusations from Cruz. Yeah, well, and that's the thing. And actually, let's go into this video for just a sec, because it looks like they have the clip from, one of the clips at least, from this here. So let's go actually do watch this.
Prosecutors do, but parents don't, General Garland. Do you think that a parent who looks at the 13 different federal crimes that your Justice Department has identified they might be subject to and prosecuted for, like making annoying phone calls, do you think that they're going to feel that they're welcome to speak up at a school board meeting? How about this one? They could be prosecuted for using the internet, I guess that would be Facebook, in a way that might cause emotional distress to a victim. Is that a crime of violence?
Senator, I haven't seen the memo that you're
Why
talking
haven't
about,
you?
and I don't, even from the description.
You haven't seen the memo that he's talking about. You're the head of the DOJ. You're the Attorney General. That's your job.
It doesn't sound like it was addressed to parents. But if you
No, it wasn't addressed to parents. It was addressed to prosecutors. That's the problem. Why haven't you seen the memo?
I don't know why I haven't. I don't look at every. I do not get every memo that every U.S. attorney sends out. But if you're
wait a minute. Don't. I just want to be sure I understand this. This is a memorandum that collects 13 different federal crimes parents could be charged with. It has United States Department of Justice on the top of it, and you're telling me you haven't seen it?
Who's the memo from, Senator?
The United States Department of Justice, United States Attorney for the District of Montana.
I have not seen a memo from the District of Montana.
Not high enough priority for you?
That's not the question. I don't.
It is the question. Answer my question. Is it not a high enough priority for you when you're threatening parents with 13 different federal crimes? These aren't crimes of violence. You've testified today. You're focused on violence. That's not what your U.S. attorneys, they work for you. That's not what they're saying. You haven't seen it because it's not a high enough priority, or what?
Question of priority. No one has sent me that memo, so I haven't seen it.
What do you mean no one has sent you the memo? You run the United States Department of Justice, do you not?
There are 115,000 employees of the Department of Justice.
Indeed, and you are in charge of every one of them. And this was a
not...
sufficiently important case that you issued a memo. You, over your signature, issued a memo involving the FBI and the Department of Justice in local school boards, local school districts. Your U.S. attorneys are now threatening prosecution with 13 different crimes, but it's not a high enough priority for you. It got lost in the mix.
I'll send a...
Ron Helton says, why don't they just vote to remove the idiot? Well, because they don't have the votes to do that. That's the problem. Because they have to get 50 plus 1 to have the tie-breaking vote, and Kamala Harris is not going to vote to remove this idiot. But I'm with you on that one. Let's get this idiot impeached and removed. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen. And yeah, this is... Look, I know that a lot of my audience doesn't like the police. And I don't like the police either. But as far as when it comes to threats of violence against a public official like a school board, there should be police involvement. But it should be your local police department. The people you have to see in the grocery store. The people that you have to pass by on the street. The guy you sit next to when you're having coffee at the local diner. That's the person who should be dragging you out. Not a nameless, faceless guy in Ray-Bans and shorts that are too short for him with a fucking gun bulge in it saying, "Hello, fellow parents here. Would you like to commit acts of violence against..." Please get closer to my chest when you say you'd like to commit acts of violence against the members of the school board. It shouldn't be a federal thing. That's the problem. And like I said, this reeks of fucking intimidation. Not necessarily whether or not that's wrong. This reeks of intimidation. So that's what we see coming off of that. I think we're shifting gears after this one. We are. Let's go talk about... We're going to talk about the one with the parents, by the way, a little bit later on, because I'm going to group that more with the election than the school board stuff, even though it's kind of linked between the two of them. Let's talk just a bit about the budget bill, because that looks like it's hit a wall again. From Politico, liberal frustration imperils quick Dem social spending deal. There it is. Angry Bernie. I've got my angry eyes because I can't give away free college to people who would vote for me. I take it away from the evil billionaires, and I can't give away free pudding cups, but I can have people be forced to buy the wonderful Ben & Jerry's that comes from my home state of Vermont, even though I'm from Brooklyn. From Burgess Everett, Heather Cagle, and Sarah Ferris. A flurry of cuts to Democrats' domestic priorities endangered a quick deal on President Biden's agenda on Wednesday after a frenetic 24 hours of negotiating between the president and two moderate senators. An axed paid leave program and a proposed elimination of a tax on billionaires, as well as the tenuous state of prescription drug reform and Medicare expansion slowed the progress between Biden and Senators Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin. After meeting with Biden on Wednesday afternoon, Bernie Sanders said there's no way a deal is reached before Thursday. The problem is not with the president. The problem is with members who, although they are very few in number, I think that they have the right to determine what the rest of Congress should be doing, and I strongly disagree, Sanders said. It is not conceivable to me that we're going to have a deal today. And we need our pudding cups. President Biden will visit the House Democratic Caucus on Thursday morning, delaying his planned departure for his foreign trip to make his case directly to his party. He will discuss both the party-line social spending bill as well as the bipartisan infrastructure plan with the caucus, a source familiar said. The infrastructure bill has been stalled in the House for more than 2 months. Manchin has repeatedly raised doubts about expanding government programs like Medicare and paid leave while boxing in Democrats with an insistence on a $1.5 trillion price tag. The party hopes Manchin will come up to $1.75 trillion to save some programs. He and Sinema met with Biden on Tuesday evening and with White House officials for 2 hours on Wednesday morning. After those meetings, Manchin indicated it was time for his colleagues to weigh in on where things stand. Everybody is working in such good faith. The president's been wonderful, Manchin said, as Progressive Senator Elizabeth Warren yanked him into an elevator on Wednesday afternoon. There's 50 of us. Several Democrats said a deal was essentially done, pending Biden and Sanders' final sign-off, but the exclusion of paid leave prompted protests from Senators Kirsten Gillibrand and Patty Murray, who told reporters she's not going to let 1 or 2 men tell millions of people in this country that they can't have paid leave. Well, that should be between you or your employer. not you and the federal government. That's the problem. And if you go to work for somebody who doesn't pay you paid leave and you want paid leave, don't fucking work there. There are other jobs out there. They're begging you. They will give you paid leave if you want paid leave. It won't be 51 weeks of paid fucking leave, but it'll be paid leave. Party leaders are hopeful Biden's visit will move forward Democrats' agenda. My hope will be tomorrow, House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer said of an infrastructure bill. The Speaker and I both believe we need to get this bill done, and that's why we're working hard to get a framework. The sudden urgency could be crucial to moving the bipartisan infrastructure bill to Biden's desk before next week's New Jersey and Virginia gubernatorial elections. Yet it will also require buy-in from skeptical progressives who are seeing their priorities increasingly shrunk or left behind, and time is starting to run short. See, this is one of the things out here because, yes, New Jersey and Virginia are going to go back to the polls next week to go and vote. You see what's happening here? You see what's starting to go on here? They want to use this because they want to make sure that that the Republicans in both those races get fucking trounced. And both of them are in pretty well dead even races too, which in deep blue places like Virginia, which has the Beltway influence, and New Jersey, which is practically fucking New York. The races shouldn't be that tight. The races should not be that tight. But Democrats have failed at everything this year. So why would you elect more of them? And that's one of the things. Now, on the other side of this, after seeing Razor's video on Kyrsten Sinema and being reminded of the fact that she used to be a Green, I do legitimately believe that she's holding this off until midterms, after midterms. So she can go back and stump out on the campaign trail and say, hey, go get more Democrats elected here, otherwise this isn't going to go. So that's what we're seeing off of that. A couple of details that come off this one, especially this one here from Fox News. Senate Democrats cut paid family and medical leave from spending package report. Well, good. I mean, even if the government has to be involved in the paid leave, that should still be at a local level. That should be an incentive to get people to move to your municipality. Like, hey, I can move to City Y because they've got a mandate in their city charter that mandates paid leave. Man, I want to pack up my whole family and move to that city. And that city gains 4.5 more taxpayers. I'm joking. Millennials are in there. That's 2.5 taxpayers. Ha ha! Because we didn't reproduce. We go from the baby boomers who are coming out there and pumping out 2 or 3, maybe 4 kids at a time, to Gen X who says, oh, you know what, man, I can only really handle 1, and then my divorce is final too, so maybe I'll get the second stepkid in the remarriage here, to my generation, the millennials, who have cut it down to 4 abortions and a dog. Senate Democrats have dropped the paid family and medical leave proposals from the social spending package after negotiations with moderate Democrats have failed to reach a compromise on a pared-down version of the proposals, according to the report. Democrats decided to drop their proposals on Wednesday, despite that they were a key campaign promise of President Biden. According to reporting from Politico, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, one of the Senate's leading advocates for the benefits, had tried to reach a last-minute deal with Manchin, who has resisted the overall cost of the package. But Gillibrand told Fox News Wednesday that reports about the benefits being dropped are premature, signaling hope that some sort of pared-down version could still be in play. Manchin has argued that the cost of the proposals is too high when some social programs are already in jeopardy of running low on funds. I'm talking to everybody. I've been very clear to expand social programs when you don't have trust funds that are when you have trust funds that aren't solvent. They're going insolvent. I can't explain that. It doesn't make sense to me. I just can't do it, Manchin said on Wednesday. But Gillibrand has said that she will not give up on getting the benefits added. And I mean, I was watching Twitter throughout this yesterday too, and the calls are out there. well, let's primary Joe Manchin. We need to primary Joe Manchin and get a progressive Democrat in there that'll do what the party wants. And I saw that and I just said, yes, please, please. Oh God, please. In deep red West Virginia, primary Joe Manchin from the left. Please do that. And then the same fucking thing with cinema. In a Hong Kong purple state. Hong Kong turning blue. Hong Kong California influence. Please primary cinema from the left in a statewide race. Now, okay, if she was still in a House race sitting up there in her little throne in fucking Phoenix, well, A, she'd probably still be a progressive and maybe even still a fucking green, but I repeat myself. But she'd probably be safe in something like that. If you primaried her from the left, because you can't really get that much further from her. But yes, up until last year, Hong Kong, deep red Arizona, please primary Kyrsten Sinema in what she is pretending to be, because she is not a conservative Democrat by any stretch of the imagination. But please primary her from the left. Please, I want to watch that. I want to get a big fucking bucket of popcorn in 2024 and watch that shit. But that's what we see coming off of that. And Gillibrand is fucking pissed too, and I love it. Alright, what else do we got here? From Reuters. Manchin says, and you know, this is where I part with Manchin and start to realize that he really is a Democrat. Manchin says everyone in the U.S. should pay patriotic tax. From Reuters. No author given. This is a shorty, but a goodie. Democrat Senator Joe Manchin said on Wednesday that people of the U.S. should pay a patriotic tax of 15% if they ended up with zero tax liability. What? Manchin, speaking to reporters, said he supported everyone paying their fair share and did not like to target different people. Okay. So, other than the donors that you just lost with this, first off, who has zero tax liability as a business owner? Because you are paying your business taxes too, keep in mind. And yeah, in a lot of cases on your income, you're coming up with a loss because you're busy paying your business income taxes. And yes, they can also hide their assets into business assets as well. I understand that. And they can hide their income. I understand that. I like that because then they go and invest in business and create more jobs. I enjoy that very much. But a patriotic tax? Are you fucking kidding me? This country was founded because the bloody fucking Brits put a 2% tax on tea. How is any tax patriotic? I don't know. I can't fathom any of this fucking bullshit. Taxation is theft. And of course, the attacks go right to Sinema too, because she's a woman and, well, Anna Navarro. Well, we've all seen Mean Girls. Let's read here. I don't really care who gets triggered by me bringing race into this. The truth is, no woman of color could possibly dress like this, act like this, and be taken seriously, much less elected. I suspect every black woman and Latina reading this knows what I'm talking about. Let's listen.
The clerk will report the nomination.
Nomination, the judiciary, Sarala Nagala of Connecticut, United States District Judge for the District of Connecticut.
Madam President.
Majority Leader. The clerk will report the nomination.
Yeah, that is super unprofessional, and I know that women can get away with different dress, and I mean, for a guy, the standard is just to come out and wear the suit. The three-piece with the vest, with the tie, and they all look the same, but women get to dress a little bit differently off this. But Kyrsten, come on. You're not at the rodeo in Tucson. But on top of that, I love the fact that that race came into this, especially. I suspect every black woman and Latina reading this knows what I'm talking about. Why is this a race thing? She shouldn't have been able to get away with this to begin with. You are in a professional setting. You are in the U.S. Senate. Take some pride in the fact that you got that far. Out of a red fucking state. When you were a communist activist. Not that long ago. What else do we got going on here? Let's talk Charlie Kirk for just a second, because this was interesting. This was very interesting. So apparently, somebody came up and asked Charlie Kirk when they were going to get to use their guns that they kept amassing off of this here. Santiago Meyer tweets out, I've been saying this all along. Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA are dangerous. It doesn't matter if they denounced the violence, they caused it. Let's listen to this, and let's read from Dead State.
Fascism. This is tyranny. When do we get to use the guns? No, and I'm not, that's not a joke. I'm not saying it like that. I mean, literally, where's the line? How many elections are they going to steal before we kill these people?
So, no, no, hold on. No, stop. Hold on. Now, I'm going to denounce that. I'm going to tell you why. Because you're playing into all their plans, and they're trying to make you do this.
Fascism. This is tyranny.
Yeah, that guy was a fucking plant. I'm telling you that right off the bat. And he got the audio clip that Santiago Meyer said, because I know what he wanted to do. I know that he wanted, well, first off, he got what he wanted off of this because, oh, no, look at all what these TP USA people are saying. In spite of the fact that it was. But just listen close to this. Because I do want to, there is something we do need to pay attention to with this.
When do we get to use the guns?
No, and he started talking right away, so he got back over it. But unfortunately, there was a half and half, where half of them seemed to be cheering and half of them seemed to be screaming no. But no, you don't come out there and say that. And this is what I've also been saying for a long time. When people say that they're going to the U.S. Capitol to protest, we're going to bring guns and we're going to take over the U.S. Capitol. When people say that they're going to bring guns to a protest at the state capitol, we're going to go take the state capitol up over here. When they did that thing in Michigan where they all kept their weapons holstered, but they carried their guns into the Michigan capitol, I actually denounced that at the time. I thought it was kind of cool to see in the fact that, yes, you're sitting out in the situation where everybody was standing in here keeping their guns holstered but carrying them otherwise. I thought that was kind of cool in a demonstration off of this. But one little trigger where everybody, one little incident, one little push where everybody's sitting sealed inside of a massive fucking rotunda could have been disastrous at a second. If this guy honestly wants to know when you use the guns, when do you use the guns? It's when they come to kill you. You defend your territory. You do not aggress on theirs. Because they have the military and the army and the FBI to come in and haul you away for saying the wrong thing about the government. You wait for them to bring the fight to you. Just like they did in Vietnam, just like they did in Iraq, just like they did in Afghanistan. You hunker down, you hold out, and you let them bring it to you. But yeah, let's read briefly from Dead State here. Audience member to Charlie Kirk. When do we get to use the guns to kill these people? From Sky Palma. While speaking at a TP USA event this Monday night, Charlie Kirk took a question from a member of the audience. A question the audience member admitted was a bit out of the ordinary. Oh, you say? At this point, we're living under corporate medical fascism. This is tyranny. When do we get to use the guns? The man asked, clarifying that the question was not a joke. I'm not saying it like, I mean, literally, when's the line? How many elections are they going to steal before we kill these people? Kirk denounced the question, saying the man was playing into the left's plan. Well, he was from the left, so of course he was playing into their plan. They're trying to make you do something that will be violent, that will justify takeover of your freedoms and liberties, the likes of which we have never seen, Kirk said. A mistake would be all of a sudden getting into physical, violent confrontation, Kirk continued. You think that this regime has all of a sudden sprung into action. Wait till they get what they want. They want that. Why would you give that to them? Follow-up point. And Dead State and this Santiago dude up here are both going to try and tell you the same thing. Though this was totally unplanned. We knew nothing about this in spite of the fact that we had the camera trained on this guy right away and ready to go and ready to come talking about this. No. This guy was planted in here to come back out here and say it to see how many people would come back and cheer for him. And the FBI was watching. Fuck off. Let's grab one from Fox News. Mcauliffe buys fake news ads in effort to sway voters, Fox News investigation finds. From Remy Numa. Former Governor Terry Mcauliffe has spent nearly $100,000 advertising fake news websites on Facebook during the Virginia gubernatorial campaign, Fox News can reveal. The Democrats' advertisements, which have been viewed up to 3.5 million times so far, are hidden on a Facebook page with a similar name to local news website. The ads link to third-party websites that ostensibly publish local news but exist to promote Democratic candidates. The websites have been widely described as disinformation and partisan propaganda. The revelation comes less than a week before the election day, and as the candidates fight for every last vote, with polls showing Mcauliffe and rival Glenn Youngkin locked in a tight battle. The Mcauliffe campaign advertisements are sophisticated and opaque. Like most candidates, Mcauliffe operates a Facebook page under his own name to promote his campaign, but the former governor also operates another Facebook page that blurs the lines between a political campaign and disinformation. The page is called Download Virginia, and it was quietly launched by Mcauliffe in June. While the name of this page sounds similar to that of a news organization, the page has not published any posts or photos, and only 67 people have liked the page, a term Facebook uses to describe followers. Instead, most voters have encountered the download, have done so through paid advertising. The ads do not appear on the page itself, but can be obtained through a Facebook ad library report, a tool used by journalists and researchers. The Mcauliffe campaign spent $471,044 on ads distributed to this page since June, with several ads running at the time of publication. That number is likely to rise before Election Day. But don't worry, it's only Republicans that run fake news. Dude, they are desperate for this election. They are hard up for this one, which I find hilarious, because this is, like I said, deep, deep blue Virginia with DC Beltway influence in a statewide race. And they're scrambling this hard on something that, under all circumstances, should be in the bag. But speaking of this, and for the title card of this episode here, Brady Leonard tweeted out yesterday, who is of the No Gimmicks podcast. I cited him in the tweet that came out with this, because I couldn't do this that one-liner by myself, so thank you to that. And he got me the citation too, by the way, but Brady Leonard, and everybody should go check out the No Gimmicks podcast on all your podcatchers. It's audio only. There's nothing more Washington Post than the Washington Post going after a 14-year-old rape victim to help Democrats win elections. Which he provided me with this tweet. Justin Jovenel says a teen testified that she met a classmate for consensual sex in the girls' bathroom of Loudoun County High School before, but in a May encounter she was sexually assaulted. Now, new details in the case at the center of the firestorm. Well, let's read from the Washington Post, and we did talk a bit about this yesterday. And yes, I'm well aware of the fact that she used to go into the bathroom with this boy and spread her legs. Let's read, and then we'll get into why this is wrong. In the case at center of political firestorm, judge finds teen committed sexual assault in Virginia school bathroom. From Justin Jovenel. In a case that generated a political firestorm, a Virginia juvenile court found sufficient evidence during a trial Monday to sustain charges that a teen sexually assaulted a classmate in the girls' bathroom of a Loudoun County High School in May. The teenager, now 15, is also charged with sexual assault of another student that occurred months later at a different Loudoun school. Loudoun County Juvenile Court Chief Judge Pamela L. Brooks said she would wait to sentence the teen until that case is decided in November. The judge's finding is the juvenile court equivalent of a guilty verdict in other courts. The case generated local and national attention after the parents of a girl assaulted in May said the charged youth was gender fluid, prompting renewed backlash against the policy in Loudoun County schools that allow transgender students to use bathrooms that match their gender identity. That policy was adopted after the May assault. Authorities have not commented on the youth's gender identity, and it did not become an issue Monday in court. During the hearing, the 15-year-old victim in the first case testified that she had consensual sex encounters with the defendant on 2 occasions in a girls' bathroom at Stonebridge High School in Ashburn. On May 28th, she said, the two arranged to meet again, and the youth threw her to the floor and forced her to perform sex acts. The case has also sparked anger from parents who have questioned why the teen was allowed to attend another school while awaiting trial in the May assault. It has prompted the head of Loudoun County Schools to embark on major reforms to the district's disciplinary procedures to prevent a similar occurrence. It has also become an issue in the Virginia governor's race, where in recent days, Republican candidate Glenn Youngkin has called for an investigation of the Loudoun County School Board and demanded more police in schools in response to the incident. On Monday, the teenage victim of the Stonebridge assault testified that she and her attacker had agreed to meet up in the school bathroom around 12:15 p.m. on the date of the assault. She testified they had not explicitly discussed having sex beforehand. The teen testified she'd arrived and chose to go in the girls' bathroom because the two had always met in the girls' bathrooms in the past. When the boy arrived, the teen testified he had come into the handicap stall she was in and locked the door. The two talked before the girl testified the boy began grabbing her neck and other parts of her body in a sexual manner. She testified she told the attacker she was not in the mood for sex, but he forced himself on her. He flipped me over, the girl testified. I was on the ground and couldn't move, and he sexually assaulted me. The attack only stopped when someone came in the bathroom and startled the defendant, the victim testified. The girl testified the second sexual assault occurred a little later. The judge found there was sufficient evidence to find the defendant had forced the girl into 2 sex acts. The Washington Post generally does not name the victims of the sexual assault and is not identifying the girl or her parents. The Post also generally does not identify defendants charged as juveniles. Which, I mean, factually everything is out here, but it's worded in such a slimy manner because they want the focus to be on the fact that she went in there and agreed to go and meet the boy up in the bathroom, and she'd gone into the bathroom and had sex with him before. I guarantee you that if I went off, found my ex, who we've had sex before, and pushed her to the ground and said, okay, we're having sex again, you wouldn't be seeing me the next weekday morning. It doesn't matter if they've done it consensually before. She said no. She said no. That became a violent rape at that point. Especially given the fact that he threw her to the ground. And honestly, this guy should have his fucking testicles chopped off. Of course, if he's gender fluid, that might be a reward to him. I don't know. Throw him, if he violently rapes somebody, throw his ass in fucking prison and let him be somebody's girlfriend. He's gender fluid, so he fits the part. No, seriously. This is just beyond. And the fact that the Washington Post is coming out here for this one. Because they're that desperate to come out and win this election. Alright. That's enough of that. Speaking of more Virginia election stuff here. This is Biden giving a speech in Arlington at a campaign event for fellow Democrat Terry Mcauliffe. Let's listen.
That's all right. Let him go. Let him go. That's okay. That's all right. Why don't you hang out and talk to me after this is over, okay? Well, thank you. Look. Thank you. That's
Dude,
right.
that guy has no idea what the fuck he's doing.
Let him holler. I also like to thank members members of the congressional delegation that are here. Don.
We love Trump. We love Trump. You love to see it. I mean, of course, if this was going the other direction and Trump was speaking and people came into the crowd and started screaming, oh, go Biden, go Hillary, go this, go that. And he'd probably take that off in stride too. But yeah, it wouldn't be a problem on social media either. They'd be taking a fucking victory lap. Oh, look, Trump is so unpopular. What else do we have here? Oh, this one was fun. During a UN climate summit, talking dinosaur warns humans of impending extinction, says they're headed for a climate disaster, according to a UN video. From Alex Nitzberg. Speaking at the UN in New York City, a talking computer-generated dinosaur warns that humans must take action to avoid going extinct as a consequence of climate change. The bizarre scene unfolds in a video released by the UN Development Program. I am not going to describe this anymore or read any more quotes off of this. Just listen.
You okay? You need a minute? Cool. Okay. Listen up, people. I know a thing or two about extinction. And let me tell you, and you'd kind of think this would be obvious, going extinct is a bad thing. And driving yourselves extinct? In 70 million years, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. At least we had an asteroid. What's your excuse? You're headed for a climate disaster, and yet every year governments spend hundreds of billions of public funds on fossil fuel subsidies. Imagine if we had spent hundreds of billions per year subsidizing giant meteors. That's what you're doing right now. Think of all the other things you could do with that money. Around the world, people are living in poverty. Don't you think helping them would make more sense than, I don't know, paying for the demise of your entire species? Let me be real for a second. You've got a huge opportunity right now. As you rebuild your economies and bounce back from this pandemic, this is humanity's big chance. So here's my wild idea. Don't choose extinction. Save your species before it's too late. It's time for you humans to stop making excuses and start making changes. Thank you.
Well, that was about the most cringe thing I've seen in quite a while, and I mean, we do news on this program, so I've seen quite a bit of cringe stuff. Come on. Exit. Huh. We may be experiencing some technical difficulties here. There we go. All right. So that's what we see coming off of that. Yeah, I like the fact that Arvel, let me be real, no one else saw the irony of a CGI dinosaur off of this. Coming in a fully acted situation. That was amazing. All right, let's keep going. Trash is piling up in New York City, and sanitation workers blame de Blasio's vaccine mandate. From Larry Salona, Julia Marsh, Kevin Sheehan, and Bruce Golding. These city employees think Mayor Bill de Blasio's vaccine mandate is pure garbage, and they should know. Sanitation workers outraged over the order to get inoculated against the pinko fucking pox are letting trash pile up across Staten Island and in parts of Brooklyn, and the head of their union said Wednesday that he's on their side. The protesting workers are engaging in a rule book slowdown that includes returning to their garages for things like gloves or gas so collections don't get finished, sources said. And of course they're union workers, so their union says that they don't have to work extra time, a minute extra if they don't want to. Supervisors have been warned to guard the garages this weekend to prevent trucks from getting vandalized, sources said. When asked what was going on, Teamsters Local 831 President Harry Nespoli, whose union represents the sanitation workers, shot back, "The mandate's going on." "Look, you're going to have some spots in the city that feel very strongly about this," he said. Nespoli added, "I'll tell you straight out, I disagree with the mandate because of one reason. We have a program in place right now in the department, which is you get the vaccination or you get tested once a week." Nespoli said the vaccination rate among the agency is about 65%. "Our vaccinations are going up on a regular basis," the union chief noted. "In the last 5 days, we had 300 more get vaccinated." Residents of Staten Island's Dungan Hill neighborhood said Wednesday that the scheduled pickup didn't take place, echoing what happened on Saturday. "A few more days of this and people will be screaming in the streets," said Nick Gizonda, 69. But the retired city mechanic expressed solidarity with the sanitation workers, saying, "It's like Nazi Germany. Where are your papers? Your cards? Show me your cards." A neighbor who identified herself as Julie added, "What the city is doing is unfair. I'm coming from a Russian Federation, and this is deja vu," she said. "People should not be forced to take by state to take medicine because the state says do this or starve. They should be free. That's why I came here 20 years ago." In Brooklyn's Bay Ridge neighborhood, dozens of bags stuffed with trash were heaped in 3 piles along Shore Road. "If they're going to pick it up, it's going to be a big problem," said Rolando Ponzi, the superintendent of a local apartment building. Ponzi also noted that Owl's Head Park is located around the corner on the other side of 68th Street. "If you keep this here for a while, the rats are definitely going to cross," he said. And people wonder why I never want to go to that city. But I like that. One of the things that I've noticed, and I pointed out during the election time this year, and even during the election time last time around in 2016, and in 2018 I pointed this out too, whether it be in the written blog, in the solo videos, or now, is that the unions are very, very much reliably in Democrat hands. They typically, at least the union bosses, do whatever the Democrat president or the highest ranking Democrat tells them to do, typically. I like the fact that they're pushing back. I really enjoy that. And I'm not going to sit back and tell somebody they're wrong when they're doing the right thing. I like this. I enjoy seeing this. Because as a Democrat, once you've lost the unions, you're fucked. Out loud, you are fucked. And it's starting to look like, especially the public sector unions, that they're starting to lose the Democrats. Or the Democrats are starting to lose the public sector unions. And I don't know where they go from here. And I always knew, looking in at the redistribution policies of Obama, mixed in with a little bit of his neoliberalism of going back to war in the Middle East and bombing more brown kids, I see more of that. But the agenda that was started under him, and the fact that it was stalled out for years, and now they're trying to do too much too fast. I feel like if they would have eased into this a little bit more, they would have gotten a few more reliable Union Democrats on board with this, but they're just trying to do way too much, way too fast off of this. So that's what we see coming off of that. Let's do another vaccine mandate thing from NBC Bay Area. Pleasant Hill In-N-Out Burger shut down for violating COVID-19 vaccine mandate. From NBC Bay Area staff. Contra Costa County health officials on Tuesday shut down an In-N-Out Burger restaurant in Pleasant Hill for violating the county's vaccine mandate on indoor dining, according to a county statement. Contra Costa Environmental Health suspended the commercial food permit of In-N-Out Burger at 570 Contra Costa Boulevard for creating a public health hazard by repeatedly violating a county health order intended to reduce the risk of the pinko fucking pox, the statement said. And once again, good. Do more. Push back. The government does not have your best interests at heart. They never have, and they never will. They want power. And that's if there's a Republican in charge, and that's if there's a Democrat in charge. The government's key goal is to grow and to get more power. They don't care how they do it. They're showing more of their cards this time through than they have. They've at least feigned caring. They've at least pretended to care, but they don't care. Push back against the government. It's time. I see a lot of people that are putting around posts over on Twitter that say, oh, can you name one good thing that's happened under the Biden administration? Can you name one good thing that's come out of it? I said, fuck yeah, I can. Hell yes, I can. There are a lot more people out there who are looking at the government and saying, you know what, I don't need this federal government bullshit. And they're either learning self-sufficiency or putting their focus onto local government, school boards, aldermen, mayor's offices, county commissioners, state government, state legislature. They're putting less focus on the senators and the House of Representatives and the presidency, and looking forward into the local races. And if we have to have government, I would rather it be local. That has been my big thing right off from the beginning. If we're going to have government, I want to look at the alderman who made the law that's going to affect me and say, Bill, what the fuck, when I see him in the grocery store the next time? Are you serious? I want to be able to do that. Instead of coming up and, there's Brian Style, and I go up and say, hey, Brian, can you vote on this? And have 25 fucking FBI agents tackle me in the middle of the goddamn Festival Foods. No. And that cocksucker, by the way, I'm sorry, I gotta go off on a rant on this. That cocksucker keeps calling me with a pre-recorded message. After I told him, if you want to talk, if you want to do a town hall, I have a show. A Red Ned show. We'll talk about this. We will sit down and hash this out. Talk to me, your constituent. I've talked to constituents or politicians who want to represent other people. I am your constituent. I live in your district. Why the fuck won't you talk to me, you do-nothing cocksucker? Fuck off. Quit calling me unless you're calling me directly saying, yes, I would love to come on the Red Ned show. But there again, if I did try to talk to Brian Style in the grocery store, or in the local McDonald's or something like that, there'd be 25 FBI agents calling me out, and once again, you wouldn't see me the next weekday morning. Do nothing, bitch. CDC says fourth COVID-19 booster dose may be needed for immunocompromised people. Don't look, I'm going to move the goalpost. From Julia Musto. Because see, there it is. It starts with the immunocompromised. And then now, oh, hey, no, now everybody needs to go get this. From Julia Musto. The CDC said in an updated COVID-19 guideline this week that some immunocompromised people may need a fourth dose of the vaccine. The agency wrote that the people who are over 18 and have already received an mRNA COVID-19 vaccine primary series received an additional mRNA vaccine dose may receive a single COVID booster dose. Pfizer, Moderna, or Johnson & Johnson at least 6 months following their third mRNA vaccine dose. Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson just got more fucking dollar signs in their eyes. In such situations, people who are moderately severely immunocompromised may receive a total of 4 COVID vaccine doses, the CDC wrote. Those who have received 2 doses of an mRNA vaccine are moderately or severely immunocompromised, with more than 28 days having passed since the second dose. That's a month! Is this going to be a monthly fucking booster? Are you kidding me? Should receive an additional dose followed immediately, around 6 months later, by a single COVID-19 vaccine booster dose. People who are over 18 are moderately and severely immunocompromised and have received a single dose. Johnson & Johnson vaccine primary series should receive a single Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, or Moderna COVID-19 booster vaccine at least 2 months after receiving their initial primary dose. Yes. The goalpost moves once again. From the Daily Wire. Speaking of vaccine mandates and labor shortages, McDonald's partners with IBM to automate drive-thrus as a labor shortage persists. From Ben Ziesloft. $15 an hour! McDonald's is partnering with IBM to automate drive-thrus. The deal comes as a labor shortage continued to affect most sectors of the U.S. economy. As a part of the deal, IBM will acquire McD Tech Labs, which was formerly known as Apprente before McDonald's bought the tech company in 2019. McDonald's didn't disclose financial terms for either transaction. The Apprente technology uses AI to understand drive-thru orders. This summer, McDonald's tested the tech in a handful of Chicago restaurants. Kemczynski said that the test showed substantial benefits to customers and employees. In my mind, IBM is the ideal partner for McDonald's given their expertise in building AI-powered customer care solutions and voice recognition, McDonald's CEO Chris Kemczynski said during the company's most recent earnings call. As the Daily Wire reported in June, executives foresee the technology appearing across the United States. There is a big leap going on from 10 restaurants in Chicago to 14,000 restaurants across the U.S. with an infinite number of promo permutations, menu permutations, dialect permutations, weather, on and on and on. Said Kemczynski. Do I think in 5 years, now you're going to see a voice in the drive-thru? I do, but I think it's going to have something that happens in the next year or so. The first test of the automated system occurred as federal lawmakers sought increases to the minimum wage. However, the economy is gripped by rampant labor shortages. Yes, of course. If you pay people more to stay home and the low-income job offerings have to pay more, they're going to find a way around you. More vaccine news. Cawthorn introduces bill banning enforcement of federal vaccine mandate for businesses. Oh, let's see what this genius had to say. Alright, who muted Spitfire? Because he's DMing me now. I don't care, really. Because I saw him in there. He was being a fucking tool. Who modded him? I know that the Pretzel Rock spot got him for the question marks. I know that, but usually that doesn't take all of them. I don't care. Like I said, he was being a fucking tool, but who did it? He's DMing me. Now I have to deal with it. Okay, this is how I deal with it. Ignore. Let's keep going. Cawthorn introduces bill banning enforcement of federal vaccine mandate for businesses. From Sarah Polis. Madison Cawthorn introduced a bill on Wednesday prohibiting the enforcement of federal COVID-19 vaccine mandates for businesses. The Justice for All Businesses Act, or the JAB Act, of course, aims to prevent the Labor Secretary from enforcing government-issued mandates requiring the vaccination of a business employees. It will also protect the businesses from facing fees if they violate vaccine or testing mandates. The bill is unlikely to pass in a chamber controlled by Democrats. If Republicans take control in 15 months, the bill, already supported by several GOP reps, including Scott Perry, would stand a chance of passing at least in the House. Federal injections mandated by the federal government are nothing short of subsidized medical apartheid, Cawthorn said in a statement. There's nothing American about ripping financial stability away from the American people simply because they chose to make medical decisions for themselves. He added, there are patriots across the nation who would rather see their jobs ripped away from them than lose their right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I stand with them to defend freedom at all costs. Cawthorn's bill proposal calls from GOP lawmakers for Biden to scrape any potential plans a federal COVID-19 vaccine mandate, a group of Republican senators, led by Senators Dan Sullivan and Tommy Tuberville on Thursday, sent a letter to White House stating that the federal vaccine mandates for businesses are unconstitutional. They are. While the Supreme Court has still upheld the ability of states to mandate vaccines during a pandemic, there's no precedent for the federal government to mandate vaccines for contractors, private employers, or individual Americans, the letter read. President Biden earlier this year required businesses that employ more than 100 people to be vaccinated. Yeah, this is going to be fun in a hurry. Yeah, like I said, I don't care except for the fact that he's DMing me. I'm basically going to tell him to go talk to the mod that did it because I was paying attention to the news, but I'm going to do that after the fact. Because you guys have autonomy. I've told you that from the beginning. If you see something you don't like, take care of it. And if I have to intervene later, I will. But most people are pretty cool about it too. Like if they take 5 minutes, they either leave completely or they cool down. And sometimes we make a new friend, like Mistopheles. The infamous scene that got Bewitched canceled. Clickbait! Slavery-era Georgia law as key defense argument in trial over Ahmaud Arbery's killing. From Rich McKay and Jonathan Allen. A pivotal defense argument of the 3 white men on trial in Georgia for killing Ahmaud Arbery, a jogger, is that they were trying to make a citizen's arrest under a Civil War-era law that was later repealed amid an uproar over the shooting. When the fatal encounter occurred on February 23, 2020, it was legal in Georgia for people to arrest someone where they had reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion that the person had just committed a felony. Outcry over the killing led to lawmakers revoking the statute in May. Legal observers say the persecutors will seek to convince the jury that there was no felony over which to arrest Arbery, and that the 3 men lacked the reasonable and probable suspicion required under the old citizen's arrest law. The trial is in the 2nd week of jury selection. Before Arbery's killing, the law had been largely unchanged since it was codified in 1863 when Georgia was part of the slaveholding Southern Confederacy during the U.S. Civil War. Most U.S. states had codified some form of law allowing citizens' arrest. The American Civil Liberties Union and others that successfully sought to repeal the law said the state statute was originally passed to enable the capture of escaped slaves. Well, everything has to do with escaped slaves, don't you know? Every law in this country. That's why police are descended from slave patrols. As far as this goes, I really do honestly believe that the reason that we didn't see much out of this after the St. George thing is that this didn't get the division that the people who orchestrated and organized it sought. What I saw coming out of this is the fact that a lot of people looked at this and said, no, fuck that. These people shouldn't have done what they did. They shouldn't have killed the guy. They shouldn't have taken him armed. If anything, they should have held him down if they did need to do a citizen's arrest without a firearm. And a lot of people were in agreement with the fact that Arbery was unlawfully killed. A lot of people agree that these people should maybe not face a full cold-blooded first-degree murder sentence because this was manslaughter in the sense of it. But many people agree that these people should face justice. So this wasn't the dividing force that was going to be across America. So they needed to go orchestrate another one, hence St. George. But I guess we'll see what happens with this trial. I'm pretty sure that both these guys are going to jail. Which is actually, if they actually were working legally within the confines of law, they shouldn't go to jail. You don't make a new law and then prosecute somebody for it after the fact, which is the same as repealing a law. If they were within the confines of the law at the time that they acted, then they committed no crime. I question whether they were within the confines of the law at the time that it was at the time that the act was committed. I don't think that they were. I think they were outside the confines of the law. But if they were, then there's no case. Even after they repealed the law, there's no fucking case. Now, the next person that does the same thing, yes, that person will be subject to whatever punishment comes for breaking the citizen's arrest law. But you can't go back and prosecute somebody after the fact. Let's talk about St. George, and we're running out of time again. I also didn't do a thing I like and thing that I hate, which is lame. Because now I gotta think about that on the fly. Parks and Rec actor charged with vandalizing George Floyd statue. From Jenna Romaine. A small-time actor has been charged with vandalizing the statue of George Floyd in New York City. The New York City Police Department's Hate Crimes Division announced the arrest of 37-year-old Michael Beals on Twitter on Monday. Beals has been charged with criminal mischief in the second degree. And yeah, we saw the video off of this one. The guy with the skateboard. And there he goes. Alright, I already know what my things I like and thing I hate are going to be. I figured it out on the fly. There it goes. And he's off. The NYPD reportedly identified Beals from a video of the vandalism showing a white man with a skateboard throwing silver paint on the statue. This act of cowardice and hate is reprehensible, New York Governor Kathy Hochul tweeted on October 4th, the day after the vandalism. Beals, who's known by his stage name of Mcauliffe, has had small one-off roles on TV shows such as Parks and Rec and CSI New York. Beals was previously arrested under a stage name in Washington, D.C. for breaking curfew during the January 6th Capitol Selfie Fest. Plant. No, it was a different statue. That was a different one. Alright, I gotta rearrange some stuff here. So that is going to be the thing that I hate, and the thing that I like will be, well, we'll see. That'll be on a solo camera. Let's talk Ilhan Omar. Ilhan Omar accuses police of not fulfilling their oath of office and blames them for the rise in violent crime. Let's listen.
What we must also recognize is that the reduction in policing currently in our city and the lawlessness that is happening is due to two things. One, the police have chosen to not fulfill their oath of office and to provide the public safety they are owed to the citizens they serve, right? It's documented. But even before that, it was documented. The Minneapolis Police Department is the most dysfunctional police department in our state and probably in the country. The second part is that there has to be accountability and someone that is actually taking responsibility for what the police does and doesn't do. And that doesn't exist in this moment. And I do believe that the current charter that we have does tie the hands of those who want to have that accountability. Because we are mandated to have a specific amount of policing. We are mandated to, have the kind of police union contract that we have right now. I don't know any other big city in the state of Minnesota that has the charter that we have. It just doesn't exist.
So now they're not doing enough. Before they were doing too much, and now they're not doing enough. Maybe you guys should just walk back some of the laws so that people can go out and earn an honest living and don't have to steal. And that's the thing that always got me too, is the fact that, and like I say, I know that there are people in the chat, Ron, who don't agree with me over the fact that that we sit here, we talk about the fact that, fuck the police, go after the police are all evil, every police officer is a bad person. I understand where you guys are coming from off of this. But they are enforcing laws that have no business being in the books. And that's one of the things that I hate about this. And I don't want to go after blue-collar workers. Regular blue-collar workers who make less than I do, who go out there, put their lives on the line, then go home to their families. And police do more than enforce the laws. Yes, they do enforce the laws, and I understand that. But I would much, much rather go after the politicians who sometimes are millionaires because of kickbacks they get for making the proper laws and grinding out their competition, and then, of course, using the police to enforce them, the regular blue-collar people to enforce those laws. We need to focus on the politicians who are making the laws. We will have police reforms after that, but if we get rid of some of these fucking laws, then we don't really need to reform the police. And I understand that this is not the Andy Griffith Show where the sole police officer in town is responsible for getting the kitten out of the tree. Because we have so many of these absurd laws on the books. Hell, you get at some point to a point where you walk out the door and you've already committed 3 felonies for the day. You walk out the door to go to work and you've committed 3 felonies. That's what they say the average is. The average person commits 3 felonies a day and doesn't even fucking know it. All right, I think we are going to have to cut it there. I want to see if there's anything else I want to get to first. I do want to do this one first before we do. Yeah, we got to do these ones before I do Thing I Like and Thing I Hate. So, of course, this is very much I had to see it, so you had to see it. So let's have a listen to this one. I had to see it, you had to see it.
Hi, it's International Pronouns Day. I'm a non-binary elementary school teacher, so here's how I talk to my students about pronouns and such. Hi, my name is Mix K. It's mix. So kind of like cookie mix or mixing bowl, that sort of thing. That's how it's pronounced. That is my name. That is the name that I'm comfortable with. It is the name that makes me happy, and I would like it if you referred to me as such. See, I'm not a Mr. or a Miss, so I go by Mix because that's what makes me happy. Now, you have a name that you like to be called other than the name that's on the paper, right? It's the same thing for me. I have a name that I prefer to be called, and that's the one that you're going to use for me, okay? Now, I don't consider myself to be a boy or a girl. I just see myself as a person. So that's why I go by Mix. So I'm actually non-binary. I'm not really comfortable with feminine terms being used for me. If you can find some alternatives, that would be great. My pronouns are they, them, and she, her. Thank you so much for asking. What are yours? Talking about gender...
All right, before we see the rest of this insanity, I also want to point out the fact that I feel uncomfortable being called by feminine pronouns, but my pronouns are they, them, and she, her. I don't know if anybody else caught that in that shit show, but I did.
Is not something that's out of the realm for children. Honestly, the most understanding people when it comes to my identity have been the students that I work with. So it's important to be yourself, because being openly you is probably the most important thing you can do for the kids of this generation.
I would say the most important thing for you would be to lay off the cookie mix. Mix K. That is a coronary waiting to happen, and that's... Get your kids out of public school, Jesus Christ. If that is not an advertisement for homeschool right there, I don't know what is. That is the epitome advertisement for homeschool right there. All right, one more before we do Thing I Like and Thing That I Hate, because tomorrow starts Halloween weekend, and tomorrow will be my Halloween costume too, by the way, which I'm looking very, very forward to sharing with you guys. I'm very excited for this. I think that we're going to have a lot of fun with this. I think that's going to be a lot of fun tomorrow. The show tomorrow is going to be a blast. But before we do that, we got to talk from the Daily Wire on their annual thing. Costumes can elicit trauma. Michigan State University warns students about Halloween. Yet again, for the 17th fucking year in a row. From Ash Shao. Michigan State University officials on Wednesday sent students an email about the upcoming Halloween weekend and the school's football game against the University of Michigan. Included at the bottom of the email, which was shared with the Daily Wire, was a reminder for students to be mindful of what Halloween costumes they choose to wear. I'm asking you to think about this now before heading into the excitement of the weekend. Make a plan, be respectful, including being mindful of Halloween costumes that perpetuate stereotypes and cultural appropriation, and do what is best for you, your fellow Spartans, and East Lansing community. Read this article for more information about the appropriate costumes, wrote Benny War, a senior vice president for residential and hospitality services and auxiliary enterprises. The included article mentions visible and invisible identities having concerns about Halloween costumes. While most think of Halloween as a time to dress in a costume and celebrate all things spooky, it can also be a breeding ground for racist, sexist, culturally insensitive, and biased behaviors, the article says. Halloween can be an opportunity to creatively dress and decorate, but experts say it's important to consider how costumes that portray specific groups of people in demeaning ways, as criminals, hypersexualized, or grotesque caricatures, can perpetuate harmful stereotypes. The article then quotes Dennis Martell, MSU's Director of Health Promotion, who claimed misrepresentation and acts to dehumanize others have long been a way for certain groups to exercise racial superiority. Oh my God. The article also claims that costumes can elicit trauma if they poke fun at experiences of historical harm, bigotry, or displacement. MSU has provided a list of some experiences that shouldn't be the basis for costumes. Are you ready? Let's do this. Pandemic victim, blackface, Holocaust victim, hold on, my mind is formulating something here. Cultural stereotypes, body shaming and objectifying, Islamophobia, transphobia, mental illness. So we can't dress up as an MSU student, apparently. Sexual harassment. Homelessness. The hobo is out. And national tragedies. Cultures are not costumes. Marginalized people carry hardships coming with their identities every day of the calendar, cannot simply shed our identities after Halloween night. My peers should reflect on what a costume signifies and consist of to make wise decisions about dressing up, one senior is quoted as saying in the article. MSU then provides a 4-question process to determine whether a costume is okay to wear. And this isn't even the thing that I hate, you guys. It gets worse. What does my wearing of the costume convey? Does the costume challenge or misrepresent my value system? Might this costume perpetuate harm or violence that a group has experienced? Does this costume reference a certain culture or identity, and if so, is it mine to claim? I'm thinking about my Halloween costume here. What does my wearing of this costume convey? Okay, don't care. Does this costume challenge or misrepresent my value system? Slightly. Don't care. Might this costume perpetuate harm or violence that a group has experienced? Probably not. Does this costume reference a certain culture or identity? And if so, is it mine to claim? It is not mine to claim, but I don't care. You seem to be sensing a theme here. But we go through this every fucking year. It started with the Indian costumes, and now it's everywhere. Alright, with that, let's do a thing that I like and a thing that I hate and head out of here today. So, thing that I like today. Well, obviously first I want to say happy Halloween to everybody because I am going to try to do my entire show in character tomorrow. So, this will be the last time that I will be saying this as this. And, you know, we've got the little NPC pumpkin. I was happy about that. That turned out cool. And a lot of people over on Instagram and Twitter seem to like that. I thought it was funny. I love the fact that this meme has staying power, because usually you get a meme like that and it disappears after a little while. But that's not the thing that I like today. The thing that I like today is I have to cite what's going on in Kenosha here, my hometown. And yes, I will be doing some on-the-ground reporting. I like the fact that Steven has come out and agreed to come back and join with the show on a day where I need somebody who can go with a little to no prep. So I'm pretty happy about that. I'm pretty pumped about that. But just looking at the trial, and I don't know what's going to happen with the jury selection. I don't know what's going to happen there. I know that Rittenhouse has a better lawyer than Chauvin did, because nobody wanted to touch Chauvin with a 10-foot fucking pole. But I'm looking at this right now, and I think that he's got a fighting shot. With the way the mainstream media is going, I don't know if he can prevail at this point. I don't know if it's possible. But I feel like he's got a fighting shot, and that's the thing that I like today. The fact that the judge is coming out and saying, okay, you have to make sure that everything's characterized right. You can't try to do this for victim points. You can't try to do this, come out and bring a tear to the audience's eyes. I know they're going to try and drag out the widow, the ex-girlfriend of Hoover, who left him over the fact that he was trying to diddle fucking kids. She's going to be the tearful witness off of this. The family's, oh, my family was broken over a kid who shouldn't have been there in the first place. We're going to see a lot of that bullshit, but regardless, from the video in the incident, there was a clear-cut case of self-defense in 2, and the third one, well, we've actually got to see where that goes. But it's also not going to be cold-blooded first-degree murder 1 like they're trying to charge. So we will see what happens with that, but I like the fact that he's at least got a fighting chance, and we will continue to watch this and monitor this throughout the next week. Yes, Kyle is out on bail. Now for a thing that I hate. Even more egregious than the Halloween costumes thing. So, reading from the Daily Mail. Lesbians feel pressured into having sex with trans women over fears of being branded transphobic, while those who refuse face death threats, claim activists. From Katie Feehan for Mail Online. Some lesbians claim they have faced accusations of transphobia and threats of violence if they admit they are not attracted to trans women. Lesbians have spoken out and have say they have at times felt pressure to have sex with trans women or coerced into accepting them as partners. More than half of the 80 women who responded to a survey by campaigning group Get the L Out reported being pressured or coerced into accepting a trans woman as a sexual partner. In total, 66% say they feel intimidated or have received threats in their LGBT groups. Respondents to the survey shared their experiences, with one writing, "I thought I would be called a transphobe, or that it would be wrong of me to turn down a trans woman who wanted to exchange nude pictures." Young women feel pressure to sleep with trans women to prove I'm not a TERF. The term TERF, which stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist, is often used to attack feminists, calling to protect women-only spaces and sex-based rights rather than gender-based rights, in opposition to advice from the LGBT lobby group Stonewall. The same TERF term was leveled at J.K. Rowling after she disagreed with an online article describing people who menstruate. Another added, "I was told that homosexuality doesn't exist, and I owed it to my trans sisters to unlearn my genital confusion so I can enjoy letting them penetrate me." Dude, under any other circumstance, this is fucking rape. No, seriously. Like, if they came, and then think about what's been called sexual assault before. Well, if you're, it's not just if you're held down, if you're pressured, if you're coerced, if you're this, if you're that. This is coercion. This is pressure. To have sex with somebody that the woman is not attracted to. I don't understand why this isn't the outrage that it is. If it was a guy who walked around in camo and hunting clothes and a big swinging dick that was doing the same thing, he'd be out there, they'd be running him down, they'd be dragging him in for questioning, they'd probably put him in a fucking cell. But because it's the trans people, we can't have the conversation. It's just like, this is exactly like what we saw with the Loudoun County thing, where they made sure that they covered this up, and they transferred the kid to another school where he did it again. because we can't anger the trans lobby. This is fucking ridiculous. This is shit. So yeah, let's go have this conversation. Let's drag some of these men who think that they're women into the courtrooms and say, hey, you know what? This is coercion. This is sexual assault. Let's do something about this. All right, and that is actually going to be it for the day here. Now that I've pissed off every trans activist on the internet, let's change up the track and let's head out of here for the day. So, thanks everybody once again for coming and hanging out with us over here on Contemporary, keeping the live chat going and keeping our little friend over on the Twitch side inundated. So we'll see what's going on there. I'll be back here tomorrow in costume for Halloween, and happy Halloween to you guys. I know it's early, but you know we're not going to have a Sunday show either. So come back and join me tomorrow, 7:15 a.m. Central Time for more Contemporary, and we'll do some news and we'll do it in character as well. Hope to see you guys there, and do tell me in the chat tomorrow what you guys are wearing for your Halloween costumes too. And we will see you then. Until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.